This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kara Phillips. We're coming back on the air as sources now tell us at least 2 people have been killed, at least 12 injured, and 6 victims now being treated at Children's Minneapolis Hospital following that deadly shooting at Annunciation Catholic School. Let's take you straight to the mayor of Minneapolis right now.
Those families are suffering immense pain right now.
Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering right now. My ask is to everyone, stand by them, love them. These families have forever been changed, and we've all been changed with them. We need to do everything possible to support them through this time. We have a family resource center that has been set up. I'm grateful for all of the law enforcement agencies from a number of different jurisdictions and all the different departmental support that we've received. They're going to be working tirelessly. There's also a family resource center that is being set up as we speak to make sure that we're there for everybody. Again, to the families that are suffering, to those that have experienced loss, I'm so deeply sorry. We're going to be with you every step of the way. We love you. This kind of act of evil should never happen, and it happens far too often. The chief will provide additional details.
My name is Brian O'Hara, BRIAN_OHARA. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information that he left behind?
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history, and we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
How many kids attend this school? How many kids at the school?
How many children? I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them. Reg.
Other than the weapons, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did he leave anything behind other than the weapon?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched, and we will be conducting other searches related to this.
Where was it parked?
Inside the parking lot here.
Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep.
Is that correct?
So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least 2 doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side where the shooter did fire.
And on the outside?
On the outside, yes.
Were there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb, like not an explosive, but a sort of a firework that would release smoke.
And which side of the building? North, south?
The side that is closest to us, here, on this side, yep.
Was there any reason why agents were also at these nearby homes?
I don't have specific information on that I can release.
Gunshot wound, the suspect?
The question was, is he dead from a gunshot wound? The answer is yes. We believe he took his own life in the parking lot.
Was this outside or both inside that he was shooting?
The question was he shooting outside and inside? He was absolutely shooting outside of the building on the side of the church, inside through the windows. It appears he may have gone inside, but I don't believe we've located any casings inside the building. So I'm not certain if he fired also while inside. It appears, if not all, most of the shooting happened outside the building.
Is this shooting related to any other shootings that happened in the last 24
So,
hours?
yeah, Taylor's asking, is this related to any of the other shootings? This does not appear to be related to any other shooting in the city.
Do you know approximately how many rounds were fired?
The question was how many rounds? I would say it's in the dozens. We don't have an exact count. There's a sidewalk on the outside as well as a grassy area. So obviously we are going through and taking our time to process the scene.
Was he firing just one weapon, like the rifle?
The question was he firing one weapon? We believe he had fired all 3. He had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol.
Chief, was this individual licensed to conceal and carry? Did he have any?
Were the weapons, was he lawfully carrying the weapons? I don't have that information, and I don't have any information on any significant criminal history either.
Was he dressed at all in any tactical type of gear or anything?
It appeared he had some black clothing on, his cargo type pants. I guess you could interpret that as, however you like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us to get the information out today. We have a lot more work
questions?
that needs to be done. We will return back later today to provide more details as they become available, and we'll let you know how you can know about that in the moments that come. Thank you.
Okay,
How can the public help?
that's it. Thank you.
Heart-wrenching details there out of Minneapolis. As we just listened to the mayor and the police chief, we can now confirm that 2 of those that have been killed in that mass shooting in Minneapolis at the Annunciation Catholic Church were indeed children, ages 8 and 10. They were killed in the pews. Here's what we know about the shooter. Early 20s, police believe, a male, apparently no history of violence, was firing from outside of Mass. As you know, if you attend a Catholic school or church, Mass is a part of the week's plan when going to school. And that's exactly what's happening on the first week of school for these kids. They were attending morning Mass, celebrating the first day of school, and that's when gunshots were heard. Apparently, this gunman parked in the parking lot was shooting from the outside of the church, shooting through the stained glass windows into the pews. We can confirm now at least 17 injuries, 14 of them children, 2 in critical condition, and now we can confirm that 2 of those that were killed were children, ages 8 and 10 years old. The mayor's saying these children were in Mass, they were praying, they should feel safe. He is so deeply sorry, he said to the community. He's asked that everyone stand by these families, love them, support them, that this act of evil should never happen. The police chief then coming forward, Brian O'Hara, talking about this unthinkable tragedy, that the shooting happened at the Mass that was taking place, marking the first week of school. It was a deliberate act of violence against children and worshipers. We're going to do everything we can to make sure this never happens again. Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, heartbreaking and sadly something that is happening far too often in our country.
It truly is, Kara. It is exactly the nightmare scenario that my sources was describing. Let's put this in perspective. Just around 8:30 local time, a man shows up from the parking lot armed with a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol. And the early information is that he indeed used all of those weapons and began firing indiscriminately through the windows into the congregation, those children and the people there attending Mass. The shooter is described, as you said, as in his early 20s. They're still working on motive. He is dead, according to the police, of a self-inflicted, they believe, self-inflicted wound. This is part of an ongoing spate of shootings in public places, and we are increasingly seeing shootings that are sometimes political in nature. Minneapolis just saw a horrific tragedy just weeks ago involving members of their state legislature who were shot down and family members. So law enforcement, FBI is on the scene. We have the FBI director, the attorney general, president of the United States, all commenting on this. But we're in the midst, make no mistake, of a concentrated period of mass shootings and horrific assassinations, if you will.
Let's bring in our chief investigative reporter as well, Pierre, Aaron Katursky. Aaron, you've now been putting the numbers together. This country witnessing gunfire at schools nearly twice a week on average. And now you're talking to investigators about yet another shooting. Tell us what you know.
Those statistics compiled by Everytown for Gun Safety, which began as an advocacy group after the Newtown school shooting in Connecticut in 2012, Kira. So the country that is awash in guns is also seeing gun violence on average nearly twice a week at the nation's schools. And this year's school calendar beginning very much the way last year's ended, with the sound of gunfire and the frightening images of survivors running for cover. The year ended with a mass shooting at Florida State University in Tallahassee. This one begins here at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church in Minneapolis, where children were shot while praying during Mass when the gunman approached with 3 different weapons, firing from all 3, the police say. There are shell casings everywhere outside on the sidewalk, on the grounds. It's possible the shooter may have made it inside the church, but it's not clear he fired while inside before taking his own life with one of his weapons, according to police. Right now, Kira, the police are searching a vehicle that it's believed the suspect used to drive to the church. They're also going to be conducting other searches, they said. They did not release a name, but they have a name that they're working with so they can perhaps dig into social media. You heard the police chief say there's no record of extensive criminal history. They'll be talking to friends, relatives, and other associates to see if they can establish a motive for this particular shooting that killed 2 children, ages 8 and 10, injured 17 other people, most of them children as well, including 2 now in critical condition. Kira?
And just looking at the pictures here of parents hugging their kids, knowing that their children are okay after witnessing this. And Aaron, both my kids went to a Catholic school. They had Mass on Wednesday mornings. I'm getting flooded now with text messages from families, even our family priest that has been at those, has participated in those Masses on Wednesdays, and apparently this is reverberating across the country. The church is talking about it. Families are talking about it. They're praying about it right now. I want to take it to our Chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary Bruce, I know you've been hearing from the president, as well as the White House is also monitoring this and sending out prayers and love as well.
Well, Kara, I can tell you we've just learned that President Trump has spoken with Governor Tim Walz on the phone, the president offering his condolences, Governor Walz thanking him for his support that he has offered so far. We haven't heard from the president in person yet. He's spending the day behind closed doors here at the White House, but he did take to social media, the president saying he has been briefed on the tragic shooting in Minneapolis, adding that the FBI quickly responded, that they are on the scene, saying the White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation, adding, please join me in praying for everyone involved. The president here is expected to shortly be sitting down to lunch with the vice president. J.D. Vance also posting briefly online, we're at the White House monitoring the situation in Minneapolis. Join all of us in praying for the victims. But as you heard from the mayor there in his heartfelt remarks, saying, you know, praying isn't enough at this point. These children were quite literally praying when they were gunned down. An 8 and a 10-year-old, 8 and 10, shot while praying with their classmates in a church at school. As you mentioned, 14 other children injured, 17 in total. We are also hearing from members of Congress, members from Minnesota, offering what has become sort of the routine statements, offering their shock, sadness, and support. And from those Democratic members of Congress, calls again for more gun reforms. Of course, we have said this far too often. There simply is not the political will in this town, and there hasn't been for some time now, to take meaningful action on gun reforms. President Trump casts himself as a tough-on-crime president right now in Washington, D.C. Members of the National Guard are here on the street. The administration has taken significant steps to take control of the Metropolitan Police Department here, but he has not so far thrown really the weight and the heft of his administration behind doing something to meaningfully address this epidemic in this country. And I think, as we've been saying, it is the horrific reality in this country that every single parent has to worry about school shootings, especially this time of year when every parent holds their child's hand and walks them to school for the first day. They wonder, will they be safe? Is my child coming home? That, unfortunately, was not true for these children here today. And now, once again, the spotlight will be on this White House, on Washington, and on this administration, wondering what, if anything, Washington is going to do about it. It is a question we ask, it seems, every couple weeks in this country, and yet we continue to see these horrific, awful events. This one, once again, impacting small school children simply trying to enjoy the first week of class. Kira.
Mary, you're a parent. I'm a parent. Walked my daughter to the bus stop last week, took my son to school this week. He goes to a Catholic school. Again, my phone blowing up from Catholics across this country, in particular Catholic schools, worried now about morning mass, Wednesday mass that happens as a part of these schools. I want to bring in our contributor, also former FBI agent Brad Garrett. Brad, a male gunman, according to police, early 20s, and apparently no history of violence, yet showing up with 3 different types of weapons, parking his car in the parking lot, and just firing off, as the police chief said, like a coward, into the windows, the stained glass windows, as those kids were in the pews praying during Mass on this first week of school.
So I think what you have is somebody who planned this, Kara. I think likely he picked this particular day, knowing it's the beginning of school. Now, he may know that because he attended that school at some point. We'll have to see. Takes 3 weapons. It'll be interesting to see what's the history of those 3 weapons, if it follows most mass shooters. And by the way, most mass shooters don't tend to have much of a prior record as to did he get these weapons lawfully. And you have to go to the driving force behind him to do this. What drives mass shooters? It's nothing new. It's rage and feeling powerless and feeling like you are the victim, you, the shooter, are the victim, and you're going to take your revenge out on others. I find it interesting that he fired outside the church, and still, we're not sure about inside, but it sounds like a vast majority, if not all, of this shooting occurred outside the church. Did he not want to really face the people that he's harming? Maybe. The whole idea of potentially a smoke grenade that the police chief mentioned, that also would suggest that he doesn't really want to look at what he's doing, or, use smoke to also disorient people. So that's another component of this. But the question is, we ask this every week, it seems like now, how do you stop something like this? And the answer is, you don't unless you know about it. And that really goes to how much energy can we really put into identifying people that are troubled. That doesn't mean they're going to be a mass shooter, but people that are going down a dark path in things that they say and weapons that they acquire. And I understand that people don't want that infringed upon. But if you want to stop at least some of these mass shootings, you're going to have to know more about troubled folks in your community. Law enforcement is not really geared up to do that from a time and energy standpoint and training standpoint. They do their best, of course. But it's a real key component, because clearly we just don't have the will as a country to do anything about the gun laws. And with 20 million plus AR-15s and 400 million plus weapons in general across the country, it just makes it, sadly, too easy for people like this troubled 20-year-old to commit these mass shootings.
And it's something our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has been covering for years. Pierre, you've done documentaries, you've done specials, you've done investigations, and once again, here we are talking about access to guns. We still don't know how this gunman got access to these 3 different types of weapons, but we sure know, state by state, the laws are different. How these gunmen get these guns, they get them in various ways. They make them, they learn how to make them off the internet. So much to learn about this gunman.
Kira, what we see here is the country has this ongoing and continuous question. Now, in general, violence, gun violence and crime has been trending downward. But that's cold comfort to the people who are experiencing incidents like this. And what we do know is that no matter what the trend tends to be, this country has a violence and gun violence chronic issue that happens over and over. Whatever the data is, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are shot in this country. And the fact that they increasingly and routinely occur at churches, schools, movie theaters, malls, any place that is considered a soft target, that is where these troubled people go because they want to kill as many people as possible. And the question becomes, over and over again, exactly what is the nation and what are people prepared to do about it?
And let's not forget about the mental health crisis that this country faces as well. Pierre, thank you. Thank you to everyone that helped us contribute to our breaking news coverage today. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce, also our chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky, along with former FBI agent Brad Garrett, all of you working to bring us the latest information of what we can tell you now. A very sad day as many kids are returning to school for the first time this week. We will continue to follow this shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, where we now can report an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old died in the pews while praying during Mass. The gunman, believed to be in his early 20s, a male, taking his own life after shooting up that church on this first day of Mass and the first week of school. Our coverage does continue. We are going to return you now to your regular programming. ABC News Live, also abcnews.com. We'll have all the latest details. We'll have a full report on World News Tonight. I'm Kira Phillips. Thanks for listening.
This has been a special report from ABC News.